Okay, going to get started. As I was saying before, I am not Chris Malone, resident CMS. I am Stevie Patton. So the substitute tonight is because most of our crew is over at the Yachats Mushroom Festival this weekend. And hopefully everyone here already has tickets for the Mount Pisgah Arboretum Mushroom Festival, which is next Sunday. That's actually one of it's basically our largest educational event that we do for the year, and if you've never been, it's pretty amazing. It will definitely get you reeled into mushrooms. So you have to purchase those tickets in advance, not show up at the door. It's at Mount Pisgah Arboretum on Sunday, the 24th, the 26th, excuse me, and you get your tickets from the Mount Pisgah Arboretum website.
And if you are a member of Mount Pisgah,
Yes.
you get a free ticket.
Right, Mount Pisgah members get free tickets. So we have a very important subject tonight that hopefully everybody will learn and will never have to use. Monica Larcom is here tonight, and she's from Lane County Search and Rescue, and she's gonna talk to us about best practices for staying safe in the forest and survival wilderness techniques. Hopefully you won't have to use those, and how best to not meet them while you're out mushroom hunting. She's also going to review a few extended search and survival success stories so that you'll know what to do as far as making the best of a worst case scenario. So as I said, Monica is with Lane County Search and Rescue. She's been with them for about 2.5 years as one of the search and rescue program coordinators. She's responded to a variety of outdoor emergencies, including water rescues, fire evacuations, lost mushrooms. You definitely see those in the media, and injured it's on the sisters. The Lane County Search and Rescue Group is supported by a group of dedicated volunteers who prepare to respond at any time, day or night, assist in search and rescue operations. So without further ado, I'm going to turn it over to Monica.
My name is Monica Larcom. I'm one of the search and rescue coordinator deputies for Lane County Search and Rescue, the county that I'm guessing most of you guys live in. If you live in Eugene, you live in Lane County. County stretches from the Sisters Wilderness all the way over to Yachats and the coast. Well, okay, Yachats is technically in Lincoln County, but our county line is just south of Yachats. So we do get called to a lot of stuff on the border there with Lincoln County. I've been doing search and rescue with Lane County for about 2.5 years now. Before that, I was a federal government worker, worked for the U.S. Geological Survey then I did search and rescue with the National Park Service for about 4 or 5 years. So I worked at Mount Rainier, Crater Lake, Arches National Park in Utah, and then a couple other smaller parks throughout the U.S. My position is a bit unique in Lane County, as most of our deputy positions are focused on either patrol or corrections. My job is actually solely search and rescue, managing the program, and there's 3 of us deputies that do that. The reason for that is we have about almost 200 volunteers that we help train, equip, and manage. Which, having 3 people to supervise a group of 200 people is, a pretty sizable task most of the time. And so we do rely on a lot of really skilled professional volunteers to help us run, searches and calls, also put on trainings, help with specialized trainings like on rope rescue, tracking, canines, et cetera, et cetera. If you guys are interested in possibly joining search and rescue, we are having a couple open house events later this month, next week. Yes, next Thursday and next Saturday. So I think actually the 25th and the 23rd down at Harris Hall at the courthouse. If you look us up on Facebook, you can see the dates and specifics. So yeah, we stay pretty busy in Lane County. We get a lot of water rescues in the summertime, usually anywhere between 50 to 75 water rescues each year. And then we get an additional 100 to 180 search and rescue calls throughout the year that includes like rope rescue, stranded vehicles in the snow is another big one. Missing mushroom pickers is another one. We're right in missing mushroom picker season right now. Yeah, we have a different type of mushroom related season. And then, from that to, we do high mountain rescues occasionally, usually only get a couple of those a year. We're mostly out of that season, but I always like to hedge my bets. And then, yeah, a whole bunch of other various things. Search and rescue program has been involved in like wildfire evacuations throughout the county for the last few years, especially since the 2020 wildfire season, which predates, my employment here. But I was down in Crater Lake and enjoying the fires down there. So yeah, a little about me and a little bit about us. So question for you guys, like obviously right now is like super heyday mushroom season. Like comparatively to other years, has it been a really good year, a mediocre, bad year? Bad year.
Bad spot.
Okay.
So spot years for the competition in the places where there are.
Okay. Interesting. Okay, that's good to know.
Yeah.
No. Now, it's my understanding that you mentioned competition.
Yeah.
There is kind of oftentimes, especially if that there's this kind of scarcity and kind of you want to make sure that no one finds out about your super secret, really good mushroom spot. Is that accurate to some degree?
To some degree.
To some degree.
But also you also have to accept the fact that if you go to somebody like someplace like the coast, there is no super secret mushroom spot.
Oh, really?
Everybody knows where the mushrooms are.
Except for me. Okay.
Well, sorry, babe. And then, but, and then in the Cascades, there's just a lot more ground and it's a lot more dispersed.
Yeah. Okay.
Cool. Well, sometimes when I meet people, I'm like, hey, I hope I never have to see you at work. I hope I get to see you guys in a non-professional capacity. Because, if I see you on one of my work days, chances are you're not having the best day ever. Is the volume or is the speaker working online?
Oh, yeah, we're fine. We're good.
Hopefully I'm not blowing people out. I am
Yeah.
using my teacher voice, so hopefully that's a good thing. So the best way to survive is to prevent a situation where you're in an emergency in the first place. An ounce of prevention is worth a pound of cure, to quote my grandfather. A lot of things that actually I'll be talking to you guys about. I'm guessing that you guys already do some of those, and feel free to chime in. And if you've got other thoughts and tips and tricks, feel free to share those. But they're actually things that we tell our volunteers who are going out into wilderness situations to keep them safe. So then we don't have an incident within an incident where we have a missing or hurt volunteer and a missing or hurt, civilian. But it's easier said than done. Whenever you do something over and over again, your chances of something going wrong are going to just increase over time because through repetition, the likelihood of something bad happening is probably going to go up. So some of the things I'll be talking about are just like things about how to prevent a search yourself from becoming missing or lost, and then other things I'll talk about. Hey, if you do find yourself in this situation, what are some ways to help you get out of this situation, or how best to help us find you in that situation?
I need 4As. What do I do if I lose somebody?
Yeah,
That's what I really want to hear. That's what
You
I
lead-
hear.
you lead. Okay, and are these forays with like Kids,
These
adults?
are
Oh,
like field trips with our members.
okay. Ooh, that's a good, I think I'll have some stuff in here that will help, and then maybe I'll, if I forget to address it more, let me know and I'll try and come up with some.
Yeah, that's what I'm here to hear. What do we do
Cool.
as a group if you lose somebody?
That's a great question. And yeah, when, like I said, when you add more variables, the likelihood of something going wrong increases. So best ways to avoid needing a search team is doing some prep work and really, doing some navigational prep work. Obviously, with mushroom picking, you probably don't know exactly where you're going because you're going to a specific area. And like, I'm guessing you pick areas, if you're going to a new place, you're picking areas for the like geographical features that might cause mushrooms to grow there. Is that accurate?
It's more like the forest conditions.
Yes. Yes. So like, what are the things that go into you picking a place for chanterelles?
I'm looking for something where the trees are between 25 and 120 years old.
Okay.
I'm lazy, so I like something that's either flat or benchy. Though a lot of times if you're willing to go to steep ground, you'll find other people don't go there. I'm looking for something where the understory vegetation is not very dense.
Okay.
And it has a deep duff layer.
Okay. I love that. Can you spread the news and tell everyone to search only flat or stepped places with no undergrowth? 'Cause
No.
that sounds
The
perfect.
thing is, that's where everybody goes.
Yes.
So
Yeah.
if you want to find something on your own, if you want to find something where no one else has been, you gotta go to steep ground or you gotta be willing to hike.
Yeah.
I will interject and say that, when individual people go out on their own, that's probably might gonna be different than when we take a group. When we take a group, first of all, we got to deal with parking. We got to be able to have lots of, places to park. And we do encourage our leaders to, pick places where they know the area and we have good boundaries and it's very easy to tell, you know, up or down or which way to go. And we do have some processes in place, hopefully that people buddy up. I will say the first thing we do have to admit this, that when we teach people about mushroom hunting, we say the most dangerous thing isn't picking a mushroom and eating it. We say it's being in the woods.
No, it
But-
sounds like you guys are already doing some very
Right.
things
But-
that I would recommend for sure.
Right. So I do see the navigation. I will say that we are now in the process of making sure all of our trip leaders have Onyx.
Cool.
We're
Okay.
getting that for all of our trip leaders. We've already done that purchase. So
Yeah,
Um,
and I discovered
yeah.
that seems to be,
yes.
I've tried a bunch of the things or been out. I remember I was out with people last year. I think we had 5 different apps on our phones and we compared everything and we liked Onyx Hunt the best.
Yeah.
Okay. Onyx Hunt. Okay.
Mhm.
Well, when I was taking people out for Native American sites and preservation work there, I passed out the world's loudest whistles. And if you can't find
Yes.
somebody, that whistle is so loud, it's
Yes.
just incredible.
Yeah.
So we taught people to blow once and we'll blow twice when we hear you, and then you just follow the voice, follow the whistle.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
We've actually done that also. We have purchased whistles. I don't know that we do it every time. Make sure that the leader passes them out. We ask people to bring whistles and we have purchased whistles to give out at field trips. And we go over the 3 whistle, here I am, and the
The
response,
pulse.
and then the 3 if you're in trouble. Yes.
Gotcha.
Yes.
No, that's great.
Yes, that's, yeah.
Yeah.
My whistle is I actually put my knife around my neck in a little sheath and my whistle's on there. Yeah. Wear them around your neck. Yes. Yep.
That is.
Yes.
Yeah, so I guess kind of skirting over this, if you have the ability to buy a GPS device, that's like that's beautiful. That's chef's kiss, as the youngsters would say. Just because most GPS devices also have like a partner app that you can download on your phone. So then you don't have to use the tiny little GPS to text, and then it's got satellite text. However, satellite texting is coming out with more and more phones. I think iPhone 14 Pro and newer, you can get satellite texting. I know T-Mobile just introduced satellite texting using Starlink and is rolling that out over the next few months. So satellite texting is becoming a huge tool that we're using to communicate with people who are lost. And then for, knowing where you're at is pretty golden. If you are in a familiar place, obviously it's a lot easier. If you are in an unfamiliar place, making sure that you have, a pretty large area around where you think you'll be downloaded. If you don't want to pay for something like Onyx or Gaia or Avenza, you can download it off of Google Maps. They have a feature to download and put areas on Google Maps offline, just so you can tell where you are, and then your GPS location works a lot better for much longer in areas of no service. It's rare that you'll get to a spot that you'll have no GPS locator features, even if you don't have any cell service to call out. Another thing I don't talk about on here, but if something does go wrong, if someone gets injured or you are unable to figure out how to get back out to your vehicle or transportation, calling 911, even if you have little to no service, calling 911 takes priority on cell phone towers. So even if, you can't make a phone call to a friend or family member, you might be able to get a phone call out to 911. When you make a phone call out to 911, it automatically attempts to capture your GPS location. Depending on how remote you are, we may not get an exact ping of where you are. It may be, hey, they're somewhere in this 3-mile radius or this, 1,200-meter radius. So there is possibly some guesswork. Text to 911 is also a thing in Lane County, and I believe most of Oregon, except for a few counties out east in the really remote parts of the state. And then paper maps, they're great if, we get hit by an EMP or something like that, but they kind of suck with the rain and everything if you're dealing with that. So pros and cons, there's no be all end all, but it's good to have a variety of tools. We have a saying when we're like preparing for missions and telling volunteers what to pack in, we say one is none. You always need a backup. So you need a backup flashlight or, source of light, backup fire starter, et cetera, et cetera. I'm not saying you guys should go out into the woods with like a 40-pound pack because that comes with its own stressors and risks. But just keeping that in the back of your mind, like, hey, like, I know I have my phone, but maybe make sure someone else has it downloaded on their phone because you never know if you drop your phone and it gets smashed or something. Just having a backup in place is super helpful. So even if you can't afford a Garmin, because I know they're expensive and stuff, having a way to retrace your steps is probably, if I could like picture my ideal mushroom picker, that would be something that they would leave behind as some kinds of breadcrumbs like Hansel and Gretel. Preferably not breadcrumbs, although if that's all you have, that's better than nothing. But we oftentimes use flagging in search and rescue to flag our way into a location if we're doing a rescue or extricating someone and then coming out, just for like ease of access. And then also like we may be searching at night and it may be apparent which way you should go. you know, when you're coming in, but when you're coming out, the trees look different, the angles are different, and it may not be as apparent which direction you should go. So we try to always use flagging. And it for you guys, it would leave at least a partial trail for people to get out. I
Can
know.
you,
I'll
so
get
when
there,
you
you
say
get there.
flagging, can you tell, I mean, are you
Yes.
talking like an orange, those things that plastic orange things that I always think they're a mushroom?
No, no.
Strips of plastic.
So this is what I'm talking about right
Right,
here.
exactly. Right, yeah.
So that little pink flag there, so we just tie them very loosely in a high visible area. In order to, say we're in a high traffic area and we don't want necessarily people following us, you know, directly where we're at, sometimes what we'll do is we'll wait until we're about, you know, 50 yards off of the main road to start flagging then. Just because we don't want necessarily people coming off the road and following us, but we want to give ourselves a big enough hint to start going back in the right direction. Or oftentimes, you know, directions like a trail might look good going down, but then it seems like, oh, maybe I should try this other way. But then it gets really steep and loose and it's not as good. So making sure you're using flagging to kind of direct yourself back to that original path of travel, just because, you know, shortcuts aren't necessarily always the best direction. But if you have flagging to kind of remind yourself of where you went, that can be a good option. I'm open to feedback though. This was just something. What? Well, and I get to that. So pros, it's multi-purpose, allows others in your group to more easily find your location. Um, trail markers, when you guys are on trails, are you familiar with kind of how, like, if they have the patches of painted on the trees, how those work? So, you know, you can line two of those up. Like if they go off, you can assume that the trail is going to go off to the right. And then when there's two strips of paint, that means something then just different than one strip of paint, et cetera, et cetera. So we use similar tactics, you know, putting flagging in places that are bi-directional that you can see from both directions. So then it doesn't get hidden by a big thick tree trunk. So putting it out away from a tree, or, you know, making sure it's flowy, etc. You can retrieve and reuse flagging. Sorry? Oh man, I'm trying to remember. So I believe sometimes there will be times where like you have two patches of paint and they're staggered, and that tells you that the trail is moving in that direction, even though it may not be entirely apparent on the path which direction it's going. So they'll be staggered to point you in the direction of the trail, in the direction of travel. The cons, as you mentioned, are lots of timber companies, lots of people use flagging out in the woods. So like in this example, orange flagging, there's a lot of orange flagging out in the, yes, hunters as well, yeah. So a lot of pink flagging, a lot of blue flagging and stuff. They do, you know, they do make pretty unique flagging colors. Like they make them in like cheetah print and stripes and stuff that I don't often see in the woods. You can also write on the flagging to make it unique. That's an additional thing. I'm open to feedback. What do you guys think about, you never do, could you see yourself doing this for like big groups or anything?
No, the only time I've ever done anything like this is on the coast. I used to take people to a spot where there was a cliff. And I would go out a couple days before with like postal twine, and I made a line of postal twine where I didn't want people to go past, because
Yeah.
unless you work in the woods, people don't see flag.
And yeah,
I also don't want to have to go back and retrieve it afterwards, because if I'm going to use it, I'm not going to want to leave all this extra garbage in the woods.
Well, in theory, what you do on your way out is you assign someone as caboose, and then they pull the flagging as you exit out. And so this would work for if you have a pretty clear, defined route of ingress and egress. If you're doing just a grid blanket search in the woods, maybe not as helpful. Yeah. So yeah, this I was imagining more in a situation where you would have like maybe a couple people or a couple, 3 people. The other reason why, which I kind of skipped over, why in my ideal world you guys would use flag, is so it gives us a direction to travel to potential searchers. So like even if we know, oh, they went on this side of the road versus that side of the road, that narrows down our search field by 50%. So it would be really helpful, even if it's like, even if you leave a note on your dash that says, hey, we went this way or that way, it can be super helpful for us because otherwise, we typically start searches and we do kind of like a 100-meter radius around your vehicle, and then we go 300 meters depending on the terrain and how likely we think it would be that you'd go in a certain area around your vehicle. But being able to narrow that down at all is super helpful. So when you plan on getting lost, when you're out searching in a new area, when you're not leading a big group, leaving a note in your car saying, hey, headed this way. If this car is still here by Tuesday morning, then please, call search and rescue.
Know where you're going. And there's also these apps you can subscribe to. I subscribe to one that you put on the app where you're going. And give pretty detailed stuff so that if they search and rescue needs to get called, they have more information than just a note on my dashboard.
Yeah, and I'll get to that later. But yeah, if you tell someone a system you're going to be off of, and then when they should get worried if you haven't come back, that is a huge help. The current search we're working on, we have like a 4-day lead time. So we were notified. So, that in and of itself expands our search area because it's like, well, have they been walking for 4 days? Did they stay stationary? So just telling someone when to expect you back and approximately where you'll be is absolutely huge. So prevention, hopefully it happens. Sometimes it doesn't. Sometimes things go wrong no matter what. That's okay. This is a picture from one of the rescues I did in Mount Rainier. They were fine. They ended up being fine. They were fine. So you find yourself in a situation, and obviously like this would be for, a straggler in a big group, or if you're going off solo or getting separated from your own group. You find yourself in a situation where you're like, oh crap, or, using a different 4-lettered word. I don't exactly know where I am. The weather's coming in tonight, and I can't figure out an easy way to get up to, where I think my vehicle is or down to where I think my vehicle is. So things just, prioritize in survival. I'm guessing do you guys all spend a lot of time outdoors, like camping, backpacking, all that stuff? Yeah, okay. Mountain climbing. Okay, so you guys already probably have a lot of these things. One thing we see in search and rescue over and over again is a positive mental attitude is like the make or break between whether you make it in extreme circumstances or when you don't make it in extreme circumstances. So obviously we all need air, we all need water, we all need food and shelter eventually. We all need rest. But this is a list of things you need to survive. But yes, positive mental attitude. Doesn't necessarily have to be like, oh, it's gonna be okay. Like, it doesn't have to be a false sense of positive attitude. It can be like, I'm gonna survive this if it's the last thing I do. It can be just a gritty determination to survive stuff. Even if you may not always feel like surviving it.
So I have a question.
Yeah.
So Is it better to stay put
Yes.
if you think you're lost?
Please, please stay put. The only exception is you are, being accosted by a group of black bears and they are threatening you. So unless you are in imminent bodily danger, please stay put. If you are close to your vehicle, the safest place for you to be is your vehicle. It's so much easier to find a car than it is to find just a person. Yes. And I'll have, let's see, do I have one? Yes. Yeah, so when we get into stressful situations, a lot of times the first survival or getting through the stressful situations is just going through that sense of overwhelmedness and like, oh, I don't know, I'm not Bear Grylls. Like I think I could drink my own pee. I don't know if I can like eat beetles. Like I don't. Letting yourself be overwhelmed is gonna be an obstacle that you're gonna have to overcome in survival. Through getting through any difficult task, you just have to like what's the thing that you have to focus on in mountain climbing? Not running out of rope. And then do you want to focus on the 2,000 feet elevation ahead of you, or do you just want to focus on next 50 feet? You should never rush. Very careful. Yeah, so focusing, sorry?
Don't panic.
Don't panic. Yes, so focusing on what's at hand, the next 50 feet, the next little bit between you and your partner, not getting stuck in the mind games of thinking of overall, just thinking about what's in front of you right now. It's like, oh, I broke my ankle. I can't possibly walk up that slope that I just easily, stumbled down 10 minutes ago. My ankle, I'm bleeding. My ankle is snapped open. Like it's easy to get overwhelmed in those situations, but you be, okay, what is the immediate thing I need to do? Okay, I need to make sure I'm not going to fall further. And then after you make sure that you're stable in a place, okay, I need to stop the bleeding or stabilize my ankle. And then it's like, if you look up at that slope that you're gonna have to like butt scoot up the whole way, it's gonna be super, super overwhelming. You just think, okay, I just need to find a place to scoot my butt up a little bit. I need to find some sticks to brace my like foot with. So easy to get overwhelmed in those things. So you gotta take a few breaths and just focus on the thing, the most immediate danger. So like we're all gonna be afraid. We all get scared sometimes. I know that sounds very trite, but like in those types of situations, when your body feels like it's in imminent danger, you're going to have to work yourself through it psychologically. So one of the first things to go when you are pumped up on adrenaline and scared is your fine motor skills. So if you can calm yourself down enough, you're going to get some of those fine motor skills back. If you take some deep breaths, I know it's very like common to say that, but it really does help. It physiologically taking slower, purposeful breaths and counting yourself in like 1, 2, 3, out 2, 3. That physiologically helps you disengage as much with your amygdala and the fear center of your brain and more engage the logic part of your brain and re-engage that part of your brain that's going to help you stay alive. I have like, let's see. Sometimes it helps to have a phrase to repeat to yourself. Whether it be, this is one of my favorite quotes to quote when I'm like nervous is from Frank Herbert and Dune. I must not fear, fear is the mind killer. Is anyone else a fan of science fiction? Okay. So having a phrase to repeat over and over again can help kind of tone down your brain, get it back into a rhythmic pattern, whether that's, quoting the rosary or, a quote you really like, or just being like, I can do this, I can do this, I can do this. And then being okay with being afraid. So just because you're scared doesn't mean you can't do it. I mean, you guys, I'm sure have, or most of you, I'm sure have had a lot more opportunities to do things scared than I have, because you've got a little bit more life experience. But you know, it's not the years, it's the miles, as they say. But you know, be okay with being scared, recognizing that it's a natural part of your body's response to stress. But then also being like, okay, I can acknowledge that part of me is scared, but I'm also going to focus on what I need to do at hand. Oh, is that not? Okay. This, this is me? I don't think this is me. So, I was on the rope shortly after this. Some people would find this frightening. I don't know, my brain engages in fear in different circumstances. I think this is fun. I don't know about you guys. This is a lot of fun. It was very chilly because we got hit with a lot of mist. Does anybody recognize this fall? Yeah, say Haley. So this was from a couple years ago. We did highline rope rescue training there. Oh, really? For reals? Heck yeah. Okay, cool. So yeah, there was a guy also, you can see in the foreground. I don't know if this has a laser. Oh, there we go. The foreground, this strip is actually oh gosh, a slack line that someone was slacklining on this next to us as we were doing our rope training. Totally coincidence, not planned, but it was really cool. Ironically, when I was hanging over this, they told me to hang my backpack from the rope below me, and I was like, it's fine. I don't have that much in my backpack. I'll just carry it on me. Well, I forgot that the harness I was wearing was attached only at the hip, and then the rope was pulling from my hip. So I had inadvertently turned myself into a cantilever that was extremely unequally weighted in my upper torso. So I was literally doing a V yoga hold with weight for about the 20 minutes that it took us to cross this. So I was not scared at all. I was just focused very much on the fact that my abs were burning and I wasn't sure how long I could hold myself up. So I wasn't doing any of the moving. We had two teams of rope rescue people on each side. And so this side was hauling us. There's a 3-to-1, a Z-drag on this side. And then this side was putting out rope while the other side was taking in rope. And then there was a second set of ropes that you see the V here that was lowering us down and then raising us up. Highlines are fun, but they're complicated. There's a lot of stuff going on. But it was a lot of fun. So if you don't get scared, everyone reacts to stressful situations differently. If you don't get scared, that's totally fine too. Doesn't mean anything's wrong with you. Just means you've got a different threshold for things that make you scared. Like, you know, search and rescue doesn't often make me scared, but you know, calling for doctor's appointments, sometimes, you know, I gotta psych myself up for that. So yeah, I kind of covered this already, but stop, think, observe, and plan. So one of the fire chiefs in the county, he said, take a tactical pause. You know, even if everything is burning around you, taking a tactical pause to verify your priorities and make sure you're thinking about things through. That's going to be super key. And that's going to be key if you have someone walk away from one of your foraging trips, take a tactical pause, be like, okay, how do we have everyone besides this one person? You know, and just think, okay, what are our priorities? Okay, safety of the group, safety of the stragglers, communication, and then, you know, all that good stuff. Unfortunately, that is not working. I was going to show you some footage from a rescue that we had last winter for a woman who had driven off onto a random Forest Service road, and she had dementia and had gotten herself squirreled away on this, the dead end of the very dead-ended road. And she was out there for about 4 days when we found her. And one of the I was actually, so another search and rescue team, or we have multiple teams that we send out, canine teams, ground SAR, ground search and rescue, all that stuff. Someone else found her car, and then I happened to be looking down below her car, and I spotted what I thought might be her. I was like, is that leaves? Really weird leaves, or is that her? So I was able to see her, and I started yelling down to her, and I saw some movement. So I clambered down to her, and that's probably like the most scared on a search and rescue incident I've ever been, because I could tell she was extremely close to not being with us anymore. And the reason for that being hypothermia. I was going to show you footage of us. We had to rig a rope system to pull her up the slope that she had slid down. And so I was going to show you footage of just not her, but just the teams that were working to haul her up. And then I'm not in the video because I'm down there with her. But it was a super big win because oftentimes, it's very nerve-wracking to like be on the edge, the knife's edge, and be like, oh, things could go. It's not a matter of like hours or days that things could go good or wrong, bad. It's like the next 10 minutes, things could go good or wrong. I can't say exactly. It was here in the county. But yes, so I feel very fortunate that we found her in time. We were able to get her out, and she made a full recovery from the hypothermia and the any conditions that she'd incurred because of her getting lost. So hypothermia is the number one danger that we typically run into for, lost hunters, mushroom pickers, hikers, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. Let's see, I can't remember. Okay, I do get into that more. But has any of you ever been hypothermic? What did it feel like?
And your extremities don't do what you want them to do.
Yes. Can't think straight, your extremities can't do what you want them to do. There's research, like once your body temperature reaches a certain threshold, you literally lose higher functioning like parts of your brain. They have videos of, people at Harvard or something, and they've been in an ice bath for like 20 minutes, and then they put their extremities in like smaller tubs, and then they ask them to do math. And like for a while they can do it, but then like simple math, like 27 plus 54 is like, they're like, and like, just really simple math that they were able to do before. I mean, I'm not a huge math person, but like these people were doing fine before, and then they were not doing fine. As we mentioned earlier, staying in your car or staying put is the most important thing you could do. There's lots of like wilderness movies where they're like, oh, I gotta get myself out. I gotta make this big trek, and they have beautiful epic vistas. That may be the case in like Patagonia or like, the Himalayas or stuff. In Lane County, probably the best thing you can do is stay put. Obviously, if you are at super high elevation and you have a storm coming in, if you are able to get down to lower elevation to get out of the snow, that's going to be a good choice. But if you are near to a road already, if within a few miles, chances are you should probably stay put. If you, unless you are 1,000,000% certain you know the direction that you came and you can find your way out. But yeah, if you have any question as to which direction you came from, probably should stay put. Staying with your vehicle, if you have a vehicle, not just in mushroom picking, is super, super important. It increases your chances of survival by a whole bunch because it gives you shelter. Hopefully you have a little bit of gas left so you can keeps you warm. But yeah, staying with your vehicle, staying in one spot are both super important unless you're in imminent danger from your current location. Yes. Yeah. Are you guys familiar with this stuff? I don't want to bore you. So one of the things that has become more and more prevalent in like wilderness survival medicine is if you can give your body calories to stay warm, that is going to be way more efficient than dumping someone in hot water or, other rewarming techniques that we often think of when treating hypothermia or, in low temperatures. Your body is, it's regulating its temperature all day, day in, day out. And when it gets really cold, obviously that becomes a lot more difficult and it's requiring a lot more calories in order to maintain that body temperature. Giving yourself the fuel to keep yourself warm is going to be the best thing that you can do.
So are you saying like just walking in place?
So
Doing
yes.
something to move your body, I
Yes.
assume?
So walking in place, I didn't get a chance to hunt down pictures, but I lived in Utah in Moab. She was like an ultra marathon runner. She went out on a run late afternoon in the winter, and she ended up slipping and falling, and I believe she broke her femur. And I think it was probably not an open fracture. It was probably a closed fracture. Otherwise, she probably would have bled out. But I don't know if you've ever had your femur fractured, but you can't do anything. It is so painful. It's incredibly painful. But she was, in her running tank top and running shorts, because when you're running, you're making a bunch of energy. You have so much heat. You can be running in shorts and a tank top in 38-degree weather and be fine. 18-degree weather, you might be fine. Some people, not me. So she was like, okay, I am sitting on the ground. I don't have that means to keep myself warm. I need to figure something else out. And she literally, she thought that she would be rescued. She was on a reasonably well-traveled trail during the day. So she's like, okay, I just need to make it through the night. So giving yourself like a goal to work towards is really helpful in survival mentality. And then she decided, she's like, I'm gonna have myself do a crunch. I think it was like every 18 seconds or something. Like, it's a very specific number. And so she did a crunch, like a sit up, every 18 seconds and would count herself down over and over and over again. And her maintaining that body heat by doing activities was what got her through. I think it ended up getting like 30 to 28 degrees that night. It got really cold. And she survived in just like tank top and shorts in very, very cold weather. So being able to keep moving if you're injured and you have to be sedentary, if you can't be moving, doing something like moving your arms, doing anything to maintain some sort of activity level is good. And then also bring some food with you, even if it's just like a protein bar and, a drink, some candy or something. Having calories to burn is going to be super helpful. When we are looking for someone who has been lost in the cold, we are very intentional about how we rewarm people. So if someone is mildly hypothermic, maybe they're cold, their hands are cold. My hands are cold right now. But they've been walking around in a circle, they've been reasonably active. Like, our rule of thumb is like, if someone is standing up and moving around when we see them and they've been continuously moving, then we feel comfortable walking them out and getting them out of the rain. We'll give them, new warm clothes, some warmers, hot pockets, all that stuff to get them warmed. We'll give them, you know, some tea or some type of food to get their calories back up. If someone has been sedentary, sitting down for a long time, we are very cautious about moving that person. The reason being this, basically a symptom of hypothermia is called afterdrop. When you have been sitting in the cold for a long time, all of your blood vessels in your extremities have been constricting to shunt all your blood to your core to keep your core warm. If you stand up when you see rescuers, you're like, oh my gosh, I'm so excited to see you. Let's get the heck out of here. I was super lost. And you start walking out. Well, all that blood that was in your core is now excited and starts moving out to your extremities. All that blood is no longer in your core and can result in heart fibrillations and heart issues, and people can actually drop dead because that blood that was keeping their heart warm and keeping their heart performing is no longer there, and people have actually died from afterdrop because their body, the rest of their body wasn't warm enough and their core got too cold too quickly. So yeah, so in a case, if you do locate one of your group members, and it would take a while. It would take like several hours probably in like cold, rainy weather. It's not going to happen in like 30 minutes or so. I would think maybe children, you know, the extremities, the very young, the very elderly would maybe be cause for concern. But yeah, you would want to sit them down, give them a warm drink, get them new clothes, give them some hand warmers, and use those passive rewarming techniques to get their entire body warm before you would want them to move out. So if someone is like mild to moderately hypothermic, if they're speaking full sentences when we find them, if they're pretty animated, if they're not slurring their speech, we might consider having them walk out. If there is any loss of like motor function beyond like general numbness, like if they're like stumbling around, if they're dizzy, if they're slurring their words, if there's any loss of like mental function, we're not even going to have them walk out unless it becomes like a safety matter. We're going to put them in what we call a burrito wrap with like a waterproof layer, lots of like warming packs, a heat blanket, and then sleeping bags and stuff, and get them warmed up. And then we're going to carry them out on a level surface because the risk of afterdrop is not something we want to encounter. That was, I wanted to show you guys this video because that was my chief concern with getting her out, is because she was kind of curled up, found her. We got her on a litter, but unfortunately, litter is like a basket. I showed a picture of it earlier. It's just kind of like we started her out flat. However, to get her up the hill, we had to slant her up like this. And unfortunately, there was no escaping that. We had to get her up the slope to get her out of this wilderness, to get her to ambulance and stuff. But I knew that if we sloped her up and her head was above her legs, all of her blood would start rushing to her extremities and remove it to her core. And I did see some extremely concerning signs of loss of consciousness, you know, reduced heart rate, all the things that I was afraid of. But unfortunately, there was no getting around that because she was deteriorating in front of me. So it was, you know, the lesser of two evils, essentially. So I say all that in case you ever run into a situation where you're out with friends or you're out with a group, and just be mindful, like, hey, if they've been sitting down for an hour or 2 hours, you probably want to try and warm them up before you try to move them, because it's a real thing and it can be really dangerous. So our protocols for treating hypothermia is, if it's raining and wet, which Pacific Northwest probably is, getting them down to at least base layers or stripping large wet layers if we can, without exposing them to greater harm, essentially. Like if it's a blizzard or a hailstorm, like if it's a hailstorm, we're not going to have them take all their clothes off to get them warm because that would be exposing them to more harm than just keeping those wet layers and then piling on additional layers. And I'll get into this a little bit more, but so we'll get them hopefully into some new, we all carry like extra jackets, sweatpants, socks, gloves and stuff. We have hand warmers, we have these heat blankets that we carry with us in our response vehicles, and then we have like lap warmers that we take. And so having some source of heat that we can give them, and then we put them in a sleeping bag with a vapor barrier. So if, depending on whether their bottom layer is wet, we might put the vapor barrier in before the sleeping bag because we don't want to get the sleeping bag wet because then it's going to have a harder time keeping them warm. So vapor barrier, sleeping bag, and then we'll, depending on the situation, pile more blankets on, and then on the outside we'll put them in a tarp to keep them dry. So we're literally creating a burrito or a cocoon to keep warm. And that's called passive, yeah, basically passive warming. There's a little bit of a active, between active and passive. Super active would be like ECMO, where, you know, you take somebody's blood out and warm it up and then put it back in their body, which we do not have the capability of doing that. But there's a couple ECMO machines, I think, I want to say at OHSU and then up in Seattle. But anyway, shelter, I think I went over most of this already. That's a great question. I think it would depend. If you know you're in a situation where you have to make that food last, I would not eat everything right then and there. Just because as your metabolism slows down, your body's going to be like, oh snap, I need to make better use of this, and it's going to start making more efficient use of those calories. If you think, hey, I twisted my ankle, but I know like someone knows where I am, they're going to be coming in the next like 24 to 48 hours. If it's freezing outside and you're like shivering and you're struggling with hypothermia, eat those calories because you're going to need it. But yeah, it's kind of, you know, oh, refeeding syndrome. Oh yeah. So refeeding syndrome, I don't know if you guys heard about the gentleman, I'm blanking on his last name. I believe his first name was Steve. He was down in Jackson County in 2021, and he survived in, I think, October at about 4,000 feet elevation for 17 days. You can Google him. It's an incredible story. He was a fisherman. He went down this steep slope, I think went fishing, and then got turned, you know, tried to go up, but then he's like, oh, I'm going to take the shortcut, got shunted down a different valley than he, you know, originally came from, and just, you know, lost his sense of direction and got really, really lost. So, you know, he had minimal gear with him, and ended up tearing, you know, strips of his jacket or flannel shirt to wrap around his feet because his feet were developing sores and stuff. Really crazy story. He lost, I think it was like 30 or 40 pounds within those 17 days. If someone is exposed to extreme survival situations where they go without substantial food for more than, I'm not a doctor, so don't quote me on this, but it's usually beyond like 4 to 5 days. So extending into that week-long to 2-week-long period. Reintroducing food to that individual requires extremely careful titration of nutrients, because not only do we get calories from our food, but we get vitamins, we get electrolytes, we get all these basic things that our body needs to function from our food. When we go without those resources and we just start, you know, obviously this doesn't count like eating a hamburger after a really big climb. That's great, that's exactly what you need. But if it's been like a week, your body does not have the resources to handle that hamburger, and it can actually lead to serious injury or death just because your body does not have the tools to break down that food into fuel that you need. So they actually have to like give you IV drips of like certain vitamins, electrolytes, and stuff to actually give your body the stuff that it needs. This is in extreme cases like the gentleman who was out for 17 days. It's not going to be something that you encounter in a, short-term period. Did that answer your question? Cool. Let's see. I think I talked about this. The one last thing I'll mention, anybody who's backpacked or camped probably knows this already. The ground is so much colder than the air oftentimes, and you typically need just as much insulation on the ground as you do in the air. Obviously, there's exceptions to every rule, but this is why having an insulated mattress to camp in the winter is so important, is because the ground will just suck all the warmth out of you. So even if it's wet, if you have an area that's small enough to heat with your body temperature, wet material is going to be a much less effective barrier. It's not going to maintain that heat nearly as well as dry materials. But if you can make a small enough area using that stuff to give yourself some insulation. But man, it is a challenge trying to stay warm in the rainy Pacific Northwest. I'm originally from Arizona, so we had different challenges there, like cactus trying to attack you. But man, it rains a lot here. Fire. If you have the ability to make a fire and you're in a situation like this, if you're, if it's in the wintertime, if we've had a few good rains, by all means, make a fire. If it's the summertime and you're thinking, oh, maybe I should make a fire to tell people where I'm at, reconsider, because that fire could get a lot bigger than you want it to very easily. So, consider your environment. If it's a choice between fire and death, obviously choose the fire. But man, the fires get out of control in the summertime. Do you guys enjoy building fires? I do. I think it's fun. I'm not like that great at it, but I enjoy it. I think my record for how long it's taken me to build a fire is like an hour. And that was backpacking on the AT, and it had rained the entire night before and rained progressively. So it is really challenging to build a fire in the Pacific Northwest. Don't underestimate the importance of oxygen. Yeah. Do you guys ever carry like fire starting material with you? Yeah.
Carry a lighter.
Do you?
I carry some fire starter, sometimes, and I usually have, and I carry.
So you're already leagues ahead of most of the missing people that we have to go look for.
Maybe 8x8 that lives in my pack that has fire starter, lighter, a bunch of protein bars, a little tiny headlamp, and a space, one of those super light space blankets,
Mm-hmm.
and a compass.
Beautiful. Beautiful. The only thing
What?
I'd add to that is maybe a knife.
The compass has a mirror on it. There you go.
Mirror. No, that's great. I do have a list. I mean, when you guys are like foraging, what do you guys bring a backpack with you, or is it usually just like a knife and a bucket?
So I've been out with a bunch of customers, a lot of different customers recently. And I've gone out with people who just have a knife and a bucket and nothing else. They don't even have water with them. And I always carry a backpack with a camel in it, because I figure the most important thing when I'm in the woods is to stay hydrated. And if we're going out for the day, I'll have my lunch in there. And then I have my little emergency bag.
Mm-hmm. What were you gonna
I
say?
have a go bag in my truck that has everything I need to survive the whole time.
Beautiful.
And if anybody wants to see it, unpack,
Yeah.
always with me.
My my guess is that if you guys are here tonight, you like being prepared. And so, very rarely have we encountered a mushroom picker who had to go help out, who has had more than like the clothes they're wearing, a bucket, a knife, and maybe some water. So, I mean, by the very nature of you wanting to listen to this and be prepared, you're already doing great. You're already doing great. I kind of wanted to hear what you guys bring because, I don't want to tell people to bring stuff that's impractical. Whistle. I don't want to tell people to bring stuff that, like, oh, I'm never gonna do that. So I do have a list of like the bare essentials that I would tell people to bring. This is true. Oh yeah, I was gonna mention, so Giardia is in just about any freshwater source you are ever going to encounter on Earth now. Which Giardia usually takes between, I think it's like 5 to 12 days to take effect. So, if you have to choose between drinking water that is going to give you Giardia and dying, definitely drink the water. Like there's, it's always, you're going to choose the lesser of two evils. Um, but having a straw, life straw with you or something like that. Yeah. Yeah, it's a great tool to have. No, we bring chainsaws in most all of our rigs now for that very reason. Because just because you got out that way doesn't mean it's going to be open all the way out. Um, yeah, flashlight is super effective. A note on whistles, they're super great. Depending on your location in ravines, noise can be echoed in strange ways that can make you think someone's over here when they're really over there or something. So that's just something to keep in mind, that noise can be reflected as well as light. And so you might have to do some triangulation, which I'm not going to get into tonight, to figure out where someone is. But having a means, because your voice is going to get hoarse really quickly, but having a whistle, having a mirror, mirrors are, they're not, they're good, but really only for like aircraft signaling. And so unless you've really practiced with them, really trained with them, they're not as effective as you would think. However, they can be helpful if you have like other tools in starting fires. So it's harder to start fires with mirrors here because we're up so far north. And you need some sort of magnification tool. Your glasses, maybe. But yeah, it would be difficult to do it this far north because we don't have much sun to begin with. Yeah, signals ready for immediate use. Know how to use them. That's why whistles are great. Everyone can use a whistle. Bigger is better. Just don't bring your floor length mirror with you. Hug a tree and stay put. Stay put. Layer up. Obviously, if you are hiking up a hill, you want to layer down so you don't soak those layers with sweat. And then when you're done hiking up, if you're hiking down, you want to layer up again to keep yourself warm. Natural fibers. Cotton. What do we say about cotton in the rain? Okay, in SAR, we say cotton kills. So cotton is a great underlayer, like moisture wicking layer, but it is really good at wicking away moisture and wicking away heat. So it can't be your only layer. If it gets wet, its ability to keep you warm is incredibly reduced. So we typically tell people cotton kills. I like to say wool wounds, but cotton kills. Wool does reduce in its ability to maintain heat when it gets wet, but it's much better than cotton. Synthetic fibers, obviously, we all love, our insert non-brand specific waterproof layer here. Gore-Tex, some sort of semi-permeable membrane that keeps water off of us and then but lets moisture or sweat get away. Something I learned recently from a Gore-Tex / Arc'teryx representative is that actually you are supposed to dry your waterproof jackets in the dryer, not at an extremely high temperature, but at a moderate temperature after treating them, because that helps set the moisture the waterproof repellent or the water repellent chemical in the Gore-Tex or in, that semi-permeable membrane. Because originally I thought you weren't supposed to dry your rain jackets in the dryer, but they corrected me. So fun fact. So that's about the end, almost the end. So this is my bare minimum list for people who are doing a light mushroom trek to bring with you. If they bring nothing else, this is the stuff that I would have them bring. A phone with hopefully, your map downloaded, maybe some satellite texting in there. Emergency heat blanket. This can service two things. It can be a waterproof layer if you happen to not have a rain jacket, or heat blankets, they're not going to make your life happy, but they can help you survive cold temperatures, and they're super small, super light, so they're easy to take with you. Put in a fanny pack, put in something very light, and then some type of calories, a good mixture of like easily digestible carbs, protein, something to sustain you a little bit longer, and then water, and then some type of light. That's because, if light is a great signaler at night, and then also it helps keep you safe, and it's also a huge morale booster. There's nothing worse than, if you're in a cloudy night in the Pacific Northwest, being in pitch black darkness. Like, that sucks. So having a light source is going to be a huge morale booster, potentially helps you get found, and then helps keep you safe because you can actually see your surroundings. So that would be my bare minimum list for people going out in the woods, like mushroom picking. Ideally, I'd want them to have the 10 essentials. And I guess add a whistle to this because whistle is super important as well. But yeah, that would be my bare minimum list. Anyway, how should I be? I had a few questions for you guys, but do you guys have any questions in general before I wrap things up? Trying to figure out, yeah, so when you go searching, and I guess in the context of fall mushroom picking season, are you more prone to like parking your car above a site if you have to go, to a steeper terrain site, or below a site? And then what do you guys usually carry with you? And then what land features are you looking forward to that you hope most to guide your search to mushrooms, and then to orient yourself to the land, I guess?
We pretty much concentrate on pretty well-known, well-defined trails,
Okay.
and then just go slightly off in both directions
Okay.
and come back to the trail, and then walk down a bit further, go off and stay on. So we always have a reference point, a reference trail that we use to come in and out on. We very rarely ever go deep into the woods or go hill, valley, because you lose yourself right away. So we're very cautious when we go mushroom hunting. And for most instances, you do not have to go deep into the woods or 5 miles in to find one.
Okay.
If you can't find one within 100 feet of where you pulled over, go to a different spot.
Cool.
One thing we actually teach a beginning mushrooming class. The first thing we tell people is mushrooms love campgrounds. Campgrounds are pretty safe.
Disturbed,
Just right, disturbed areas. So
Yeah.
Like I said before, when you go in, look for landmarks. When we walk into the woods off the trail, we'll turn around constantly looking for a special looking stump, a fallen tree, 2 trees off, and use those as reference points to go back. And it gives you a much comfortable feeling too. As you walk in, you go, well, I know how to get back out.
I agree. And in terms of the sighting, I mean, I kind of like to look for an early flat ground. Well, my preference truthfully is I'd rather start by going uphill so that I can, when I'm tired, I can walk out downhill, and then it's also easier to see your car.
Mhm.
Yeah.
I love it.
Yeah.
I observed that some people are good with knowing where they are, knowing which way north is, and some people are bad with it, and they know who they are. They know if they get lost easily. And in a group setting, it's really important to buddy up those people with somebody that is really good with directions and knowing where they are.
Yeah.
That's most helpful.
And that's really important is when I'm mushroom hunting, I mean, I worked in the woods for years, and I worked alone all the time. But even so, for me now, mushroom hunting's social, so I like to go out with other people. And it's more fun that way, and I think it's safer to go out with other folks, because most people who've gotten lost or died while mushrooming, it's because they end up alone at some point.
The only odd place I've ever lost my directions was up in Alaska when the sun was straight overhead. Because usually the sun is a little bit to the south and you know where it is and you can use the sun as a reference for your directions. But in Alaska in the summertime, it might be straight overhead and you don't know, you can't see an arc.
Yeah.
So, and the trees don't often tell a story, although they do, they can see the moss on the back sides of them and stuff. But still, if you don't have your directions with you, you're at risk.
Moss doesn't always grow on a certain orientated
It doesn't.
direction. That is a wives' tale.
For me, some of the more difficult places I feel I'm most worried about is in the Coast Range, because you're out there on a cloudy day. You don't have the sun to help you. The moss grows all the way around the trees and it all looks the same. That's a spot I really want a compass. I really want I'll even have my Onyx Hunt on my phone, and I'll have a GPS with me too, because it's like, oh my word. And I hand out walkie-talkies to everybody around me because it's so easy to get separated there and to get turned around.
So I am curious about walkie-talkies because Ron and I went out and got walkie-talkies as soon as we started mushroom hunting. They were out there and going, it's like, where are you? It's like, right, exactly. What does a walkie-talkie do for you?
It basically.
I mean, it's helpful to be able to talk to somebody,
Reassuring.
but it's
Well, the time I've used
reassuring.
It is somebody's gone back to the car and they phone me and say, I'm at the car. I say,
Right,
cool,
okay.
stay there. Don't.
Yeah.
There's tea in my car. Here.
Right, right.
And then the other thing, it's like, oh, I've found all these mushrooms.
Right.
So you'll talk to each other and then you get your whistle out and you
Right,
blow your
okay.
whistle and you're
Got it.
following the whistle. So it's
Yeah.
basically kind of a way to check in, but ultimately you're gonna have to use your whistle or shout to find each other.
Right.
Yeah, I always bring the walkie-talkies,
Like,
and I had to guide Matthew at one time. He completely got in there, got lost somewhere, and we went off in different directions. We were on the coast.
yeah, you were on the coast.
I can't remember specifically where. And we're supposed to meet up at a certain time. I called him on the walkie-talkie. He's like, oh, I'm still out. I was like, all right, where are you? He's like, trying to figure that out. He gave me some landmarks. I pulled it up on Onyx. I was able to figure out what he was, and I was able to talk him
All right.
how to get back to the car.
When I pull out your whistle so I can hear where you are.
He was like a mile and a half from me.
Yeah,
So-
nice.
Did you have a question or comment?
I was just gonna say, yeah, when I'm out mushroom hunting, I have no preference for uphill or downhill, but if things are good, I have noticed sometimes, especially in new areas, like I'll pop out on a road and very, just where I'm not expecting, like I've seen how easy it is to get lost, like just looking at the ground and being in a good spot and yeah, but like less hills always better, like I'm in the real steep.
Well, mushroom hunting is managing being lost for a while
Right.
and getting unlost.
And then finding yourself.
Alright.
That's it.
Like, oh, thank God, there's that tree that's.
Do you like carry compasses and like
When I'm way out, I take my compass and my Garmin and my whole set. of stuff.
guessing that's beyond the scope of most mushroom pickers. Cummins Ridge, man, that is
Yeah, that's classic.
not our favorite place to go. That is our least favorite place to go.
Yeah.
So
One thing that's taken I've also done, because it's a cautionary step, is when we've been hiking inside looking for mushrooms and all of a sudden the wind picks up. And you see those trees start to wave, we'll bail out because my sister got hit by a tree limb, almost took her out.
I get hit by a tree when the work and woke up on the ground with dirt in my mouth.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, well,
Yeah.
Those ridges that you go-
It is just the terrain is so difficult. There's no such thing as flat terrain in that area. So do you to hunt or to forage or okay, yeah. It's you can yeah, it's very difficult terrain. So we always know if that's the call out area that to be prepared for a difficult slog. So
I'm worried about the fact that I don't know it's a woman. So you have ideas about safety that's by themselves in the woods somewhere.
I've worked in the woods for years and never had any problem, but I always, if there were other people around, I always avoided them. And I carry bear spray.
The bears. I was wondering about that.
Yeah.
typically, the most dangerous animal you encounter in the woods is going to be Homo sapiens. Typically, we almost never send people out as solo people. If we do, then they're going to be in a vehicle with a radio. But yes, we typically try to send teams out in groups of 3 at least, but usually 3 to 5. Occasionally, we might send out teams of 2 if they're like super experienced and knowledgeable. But yeah, to my knowledge, I don't think we've ever had a, dangerous bear encounter or wild, cougar encounter and stuff. We definitely there's definitely precautions that we take to protect our volunteers. We go out and rescue everyone. So if there is some sort of criminal history with the individual or any sort of inclination that they might be prone to violence, we're not going to send volunteers out. We're going to send out deputies and ascertain their location differently than we would for anyone. And then, I mean, on the flip side of that, if someone is considered to be in danger and we've been told to look for someone, we are able to access like their cell phone data under an exigent circumstance. However, none of that information that we use can be used in any sort of criminal indictment or criminal case against the person. So there are laws in place that make sure like, hey, if search and rescue is coming for you, that's a good thing, regardless of your background and stuff. There's been very rare instances where I've seen any sort of criminal occurrence occur with someone we've rescued. And like the one thing I can think of is like someone had been trespassed from timber property and they went back and we had to go and get them. And so they did receive, a ticket due to the fact that they had already been trespassed from the area. But, nothing as far as our rescue was, used in that at all. So. For the county, about 2.5 years, and then I did search and rescue for the National Park Service, which federal search and rescue is a little bit different. It's more common to get tickets if you're doing something that endangers yourself and they have to come rescue you. But again, the priority is, rescuing someone and getting someone out. Yeah, ideally, you're going to tell people with cell service back somewhere else that where you're going. I would only leave notes in your car if you're very off the beaten path or haven't told anyone where you're going.
Yeah.
Last question. Unfortunately,
I
I've
was
got
gonna
to
say, I was-
take off and plan a search, but real quick, last question.
If we lose somebody, what do we do?
Lose somebody? Like someone goes missing on us.
Trip, and we have 10 people with us, and one person doesn't come back, and we wait 2 hours, and they haven't showed up, what do we do?
Call 911.
Okay.
And depending on where you're at, which county will probably determine where your call is routed to. Give them the specifics. If you can, before you go out, get a physical description of everyone, like take a group photo or have a headshot or something like that. And then have like a minimum required equipment list so that that everyone's got a headlamp, everyone's got a granola bar, everyone's got, an emergency blanket and stuff like that. But Yeah, that would be, and then the stuff that you were talking about earlier, giving yourself set boundaries like, oh, hey, don't go past this creek, don't go past this road. That is super helpful for us, minimizing that. But unfortunately, I
Can I-
do have to take off.
Okay, I'm
But
sorry. We just had one
yeah.
question from online. I hate to ignore them. And it might be a difficult question. What made you pursue getting into search and rescue?
Great
How'd you
question.
get involved?
I did not want to get stuck in an office. I was working for the National Park Service, doing like digital media stuff, shortly a couple years after college. And then I really liked being outdoors. And then a couple years after I started doing that work, I was like, oh wow, search and rescue is kind of great. And I kind of like the medical aspect of things and stuff. And so kind of it's not normal to get a job doing search and rescue because a lot of the positions in the states are volunteer. So we really do rely on our fantastic volunteers to do a huge amount of the labor, and they're very dedicated and it's awesome. But yeah, through luck and grit, essentially. But yeah.
Thank you so much for being here tonight, and
Guys, I appreciate it.
hopefully we'll see you in a grocery store, at a mushroom festival, or somewhere like that.